Welcome to Sales Accelerators, Winning Strategies for Financial Professionals, an educational webinar series that explores the latest tools and concepts to help boost your sales performance and drive business growth. Join us as we analyze trending topics in life insurance, investigate the latest headlines, and discuss solutions to accommodate your clients' unique needs. Please welcome your host, Kurt Fasen, Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Sales Accelerators. I'm your host, Kurt Fasen. And today I've asked TJ Doan from Pacific Life to join us to have a discussion around underwriting. It's getting a lot faster and quicker. And I'd like to have an understanding of why. TJ is a Vice President and Head of Operations in Underwriting and is also Assistant Chief Underwriter at Pacific Life. TJ, thanks so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Kurt. Excited to have this discussion and looking forward to all the information we get to share.
Absolutely. Well, I think maybe for our audience, what I want to do first is start with kind of the big picture. You know, as I think back, I've been kicking around this industry for almost 40 years, and there have been a lot of changes in the last several years. What would you say have been the most impactful innovations that you've seen? And then as you're answering that, I'd also like to get your thoughts on what's on the horizon.
Yeah, great question. You know, Kurt, I've been in the industry almost 25 years now, and I remember paper files, inboxes, large APSs. But as an industry, we've really moved largely manual process to one that leverages digital data sources, predictive analytics, and really automated decision making. These innovations help us deliver decisions faster, but we also are still maintaining those strong risk assessment standards. Looking ahead, we expect continued advancement with data-driven underwriting. Vendors are coming up with amazing technologies, more improved automation. We already automate at some carriers 50%, 40%, and we expect that to continue to improve. But most importantly, an even better client experience, less touches, less friction. It's really to make it the process of applying for life insurance and life underwriting to be simple, quicker, and more transparent for both the advisors and their clients.
I love that, because at the end of the day, it's that experience that the clients have that really help to solidify the sale, right? And gives them the ability to feel good about what it is they purchased. And a lot of times, many of you watching, listening, you may not sell a lot of policies every year. You may have a primary business of managing assets or having other lines of insurance that you're working on, and so you want your experience both for you and your customer to be just as simple and quick as possible. And I love watching this, and it's exciting. I think one of the things that makes me pause, and as I was preparing for this today, I thought, Pacific Life is a very, very large organization, and you have multiple different distribution channels that you work in. How are you finding consistency in the underwriting experience across all of those channels?
Yeah, great question. So a major focus for us at Pacific Life is delivering that experience regardless of distribution channel. Advisors and clients, they should receive the same high level of service, underwriting expertise, and communication, whether they're working through brokerage, independent, or other distribution relationships. We continue to align across our large organization, processes, technology, and our underwriting philosophies to create a seamless experience across all distributions. And we consider it the one PL experience, but we truly are aligned as an organization under Susan Gillilly's leadership.
I think that's great, and it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, because it doesn't matter. I mean, I'll switch verticals here, but if you and I go to McDonald's and we go to one in Japan or we go to one in Houston, the experience should be the same. And if you've done that, but I have, and it is the same. You can order beer in the McDonald's in Japan, I've noticed, but outside of that, it's the same. And that's what the consumers want. That's what they want, and that's what advisors want as well. The other thing you talked about just a moment ago was speed or quickness, and the buzzword in the industry is either accelerated underwriting or fast underwriting and things like that. It really has it kind of has the attention of the industry and has for a number of years. Maybe you could just take a moment and talk about how Pacific Life is approaching accelerated underwriting, and then why would an advisor care? What benefits are they seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're a little different here because what we've done is we've designed what we call our PAL Plus process. And it's really to offer choices for a dynamic and customizable approach to underwriting. With our streamlined underwriting, your clients' applications are intelligently routed for the least invasive underwriting method possible with automatic pivoting throughout. So for example, if your client's first considered for our accelerated underwriting process and they do not qualify, we automatically pivot to what we call our modified process. And the way that pivoting works is it's based on application answers. They say they've seen a physician in the last 12 months. We will go get those records or actually start with an EHR and hope to turn it around in under 5 days. And if we have what we call equivalent lab results, we will offer on that case with the medical records or the EHR data. So, apply how you like. We will route to our process. We'll try to qualify you for accelerated if you're in those parameters, route you to modified based on those answers, as I indicated. And then worst case, you would go to traditional, which is essentially getting that insurance lab. We call these pathways accelerated, modified, traditional. I do want to say our success rate for our accelerated process is 42%.
Wow.
For accelerated and modified together, we are getting 73% of our cases through on accelerated and modified. And unfortunately, those stats are for our Promise business. Affluent has higher capabilities for that modified pathway. And I believe their success rate for that modified accelerated business is 80% plus.
I mean, yeah, TJ, first, congratulations to everybody at Pacific Life. I know you've been heavily involved in this. And, for those of you listening, I'll just translate in my own words what I heard. So 7 out of 10 of the customers that apply for insurance on average are going to go accelerated and modified, which is very, very fast. And using the EHRs or electronic health records and other means, you're able to really make that experience for the customer even better than before. I remember when I wrote my first case back in 1989, and it took, I don't know, several months before I even heard anything, right? And there wasn't a whole lot. We won't date me too badly, but there wasn't a whole lot of communication either back then, and so you just kind of did a lot of wishful praying. So now you can move very, very quickly, and your clients can get the coverage you need in a quicker manner. But if I'm an advisor, I'll put myself in the seat of the people that are watching us today or listening in their car or what have you. Look, I think everybody qualifies for accelerated if I'm in their shoes. Everybody, right?
Right.
They all do. Those three, that's not mine. It's everybody's. But let's make it more real. What advice would you like to give our audience, the advisors? How can they determine where the case might qualify for the accelerated underwriting? Because really, you need to manage the expectations of your client, and you don't want to disappoint them by saying, "Oh, well, this will be really fast," and then they end up going traditional. So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we differentiate ourselves from other carriers a little bit because we don't pre-screen risk for our accelerated path. So really, any pre-screening you can do up front, either with your underwriter, any standard or better risk can qualify for our accelerated pathway. So it really comes down to the face amount parameters, which is 3 million for term for the Promise side, 3 million for other products on our permanent side, and that age 60 requirement. So if an agent has a good feel or an advisor has a good feel that case is standard or better, I would say, and it's in those parameters, we're gonna try to qualify it automatically for our accelerated process. But for the best experience, I would suggest using Drop Ticket with our online health history, which makes it very seamless for the client. Submit complete and accurate information, because that is key. The answers we get and the information the advisor submits really helps us evaluate the risk through our models and some of the technologies we had talked about at the start. The more complete the application, the better positioned we are to evaluate eligibility early in the process and try to get it through that accelerated pathway. Again, as I touched on in the beginning, really understand the product and age requirements, which 3 million age 60 is standard across PL, and engage with your underwriter and the relationship component we talked about. If you have a question on a case, or you're wondering if this would be a knockout for acceleration, something simple like even treatment for hypertension, would that kick me out? We can get back to you very quickly and say, no, that would not be a concern for us. We ask for readings on the interview, and we can really assess based on some of the technology we leverage through the process, like a script check showing consistent medication fills and things like that, to get comfortable with the risk and hopefully get you that accelerated offer as quick as possible.
I love that. And what I'm just going to remind folks out there is, with DBS's team, you're able to reach out to really your case design analyst, your case manager, or our underwriting team, and they can help guide you on this, right? They can help. And if they need, they'll reach out to TJ, his team, and his colleagues at Pacific Life and say, all right, what do you think about this? So we're really there to take all the guesswork out for you and make it very, very, very easy along the way. So let's switch gears a little bit. And you and I were talking when we were working on this about something you like to call Pacific Healthy Rewards. And the way I understand it, this is really more of a holistic approach to underwriting, which I think will resonate with the advisors that are joining us, because they take a holistic approach to planning. So talk about this holistic approach and how it really works in underwriting with Pacific Life.
Yeah, I mean, this, Kurt, we consider our secret sauce, and it really was developed with an in-depth understanding of the advancements in clinical medicine. We continue to look for opportunities for a more holistic approach for risk selection, and we really focus on delivering our most competitive underwriting decision. We like to say best offer first. It really substantiates the value of our holistic underwriting approach and its positive impact on risk class improvements. Traditionally, and rightfully so, underwriting focused heavily on medical conditions and risk factors. But Pacific Healthy Rewards allow us to recognize positive health and lifestyle behaviors as part of the overall evaluation. So when you talk about holistic, we're looking at the full picture. And what we're looking at is factors such as healthy lifestyle choices, proactive health management, favorable clinic indicators, really help us support a more comprehensive assessment of the risk. Clients work hard to maintain healthy lifestyles, and we understand that. It allows us to acknowledge those efforts and provide the most favorable outcomes where we can. It creates a more balanced and personalized underwriting experience. And as we talked, Kurt, a little bit at the start of where is underwriting going, it really is going to treating each applicant as an individual. And I think Pacific Healthy Rewards does that, because it really is a balanced and personalized approach. To date, and again, apologies, these stats are for our Promise business, but we've done almost 250,000 credits, or what we call PHRs, since we introduced that process in our Promise book of business, which was October of 24. 88% or more of those cases have had 2 or more risk class improvement. So if it's at standard, that's going all the way to preferred. If it's at a table A, which is plus 25, that's going to standard plus. And that's just 2 or more. So we can go all the way up to a 4 risk class improvement with our Pacific Healthy Rewards. And I'll give you, Kurt, a really quick case study that I hope will resonate with the individuals that listen to this call. Diabetes is a great example for Pacific Healthy Rewards. If you think about diabetes, they're not going to go accelerated. They're going to come in through hopefully our modified process. Diabetics are very well followed with their physicians. They really should be getting labs every 4 to 6 months. So we, 9 times out of 10, we have very complete medical records. So we are able to leverage all the proactive care they're doing, as long as the diabetes is well controlled, as long as it's an age onset type 2 diabetic. There was a case I had on a 58-year-old diabetic who'd had it for 2 years. A1C was well controlled, under 7. Everything worked out. This individual actually got super preferred rates. Now,
Wow.
I
Wow.
would say that is a I don't want people to go out and say diabetics can be super preferred. They can be, but what we're seeing more realistically is standard plus preferred. These offers are coming out regularly with well-controlled diabetics just because of the personalized approach we take and the amount of follow-up and information we have to make a truly holistic and accurate risk decision.
You know what I love about that, TJ, is Pacific Life has taken a stance of it isn't just cookie cutter, right? It isn't, well, yeah, you've got diabetes, so it's a table 4 or whatever. Instead, you look at it and you look at the whole person. You look at how they're controlling it, what they're doing to control it, all the various factors, like you called it, holistic underwriting. And then people get a rate class that's more appropriate for the lifestyle they're leading rather than just being saddled with, well, you've got this situation, so bummer for
Yeah,
you, you're going to get a big rating.
absolutely. I mean, I know we used to do, market sweet spots, and here's where we're more aggressive. Honestly, with PHRs, sleep apnea, depression, anxiety, diabetes, all these conditions suddenly come into play. And we're looking at the condition, we're assessing the condition, but we're also looking at what else are they doing to control that condition or even improve their health beyond that condition. So the idea of sweet spots sort of goes away because we're really trying to do our best offer first across the board.
I love that. I really do. I think that is your secret sauce, and that's your powerful weapon. You know, I've had the pleasure of having some of your peers across the industry sit in that chair and visit with them over the last several months, and there are a lot of strong carriers out there. What would you say? If you're somebody listening to this, and maybe you're not too familiar with Pacific Life, maybe you've seen them on TV on when you're watching sports on the weekend or something like that, but you aren't really familiar with Pacific Life. What would you say differentiates Pacific Life from other carriers in the marketplace today?
Well, great question. And first, I have to give a shout out to my underwriting team and the underwriting department we've built. It's really our underwriting experience. We have a very experienced team that understands the science of risk. Obviously Pacific Healthy Rewards, but really the realities advisors that they face in the field. And we really focus on consistency, collaboration, and finding solutions. So, Kurt, as you clarified in my previous answer, absolutely use DBS and the support you have, but we work with DBS regularly to get to solutions and try to find ways to make something work. So we really have a tremendous team with both knowledge, expertise, and expertise in the specific distribution. So we know strong distribution relationships are critical, and we value these strong partnerships. These relationships allow for better communication, case consults, and ultimately better outcomes for clients. So, we have a team, and that team handles DBS business. They understand the business. They understand what's coming through the door. So we tend to view underwriting as a collaborative process rather than a transaction, and we're available to be contacted, whether that's by phone, whether that's by email. If you have a question, bottom line is we're here to help. And last but not least, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, sorry, our increased capacity and retention limits. So within the last year, we've increased our jumbo limits to 75 million. We've increased our auto bind to 75 million. And that's consistent across PL for all our products. The exception is GUL, which we're working on. But that 75 million and 75 million auto bind is very important in that large case market to help us work with transparency and to get that best offer out first without involving, facultative reinsurance. We also have programs like Auto Excess, Global Wealthy, et cetera, to meet your clients where they are.
Yeah, no doubt. Pacific Life definitely knows how to play in the big case space, and you've proven that time and time again. And the expertise, the bench strength that you have to be able to bring, a very, very methodical, very scientific approach to looking at the situation, helping the client get the very best offer, is great. And you're right. I mean, the relationship that your team has with our team here, collaboratively working together, to get a great underwriting offer has been phenomenal. I want to switch. I want to switch to informals for a second. And when we talk about big cases, informals are really a big important tool for many advisors. What best practices would you recommend for somebody if they're going to move forward with an informal?
Well, let's define what an informal is first. It's really a pre-application tool to gauge their insurability without, triggering MIB or ordering full requirements. So what I would say, Kurt, is cover letters help. If you've assessed a medical risk or you have thoughts on the risk or they've engaged DBS and your underwriting team has thoughts, a lot of times we get emails on, hey, this trial's coming. Here's the factors we're concerned with. But really, we view trials as important, if not more important than the formal business. So we really pride ourselves on the work we do on trials. And again, it comes down to that best offer first mentality. We want our trials to go out the door with our best foot forward, and we want to be fast at it. We really hold ourselves to a really aggressive SLA to get those trials out. So you have our offer in hand and you know what to expect.
I love that. I think it is so important because when you're working with the ultra high net worth and high net worth individuals, it's important not to have surprises, and it's important not to have them go through extra steps, such as various medical tests and things like that, unnecessarily. So I've found that for the large cases, informal is a very good approach, and you guys are some of the best in the business. All right, now pull out your crystal ball and let's pretend we schedule this meeting again in about 3 to 5 years. And I don't know if you'll be on a beach or I'll be on a beach. We'll both be on beaches. But let's just say we have this call. What's happened to underwriting? In your opinion, 5 years from now, what's happened?
Yeah, as we touched on, sort of the state of the industry when we started, Kurt, to where it is now, I think that only accelerates. I think, the industry and underwriting look at ways to leverage data. Automation and analytics will continue to play even a larger role. But I look at that as a positive, and I look at it as it's not about replacing underwriters. It's really about letting them focus on what they do best. So having better information at hand so they can make the best decision and actually provide more capacity so they can have, the distribution relationships, the service, the responsiveness that we expect. Because, at Pacific Life, we've talked a lot about relationships. We expect top tier service, but we also know that there are things that bog our underwriters down a bit with the way technology is today. So I only see this as a positive and really allowing them to focus on what they're great at, whether that's large cases, older ages, complex risk assessment, but also really developing that relationship with the field and their distribution partners. So ultimately, underwriting will become more efficient, I think more personalized, which I think, again, we're gearing towards with our Pacific Healthy Rewards, and even more focused on that positive customer experience. When COVID hit, we talked a lot about the Amazon effect. And I think that really drove some of the automation and some of the innovation we had in our industry. But I think that'll only continue. Really, the power of Pacific, 160 years of service. We're honored that you're here and listening to this, and we're honored to be your carrier choice. So I think we're going to continue to evolve and adapt like the industry is. But I think it'll only make that risk assessment piece more personalized. I think it'll make it more quick, and I think it'll be with a focus on the client and the end experience.
Well, that about wraps it up. TJ, thank you. It's obvious in our conversation today that Pacific Life really takes underwriting and innovation seriously. You're investing to make sure that the customer and advisor experience is top notch. Kudos to you. I also want to remind everybody, don't forget, DBS has a number of resources that can help you with some of your underwriting questions. In fact, on our website, we have a number of underwriting questionnaires that you can use to help better profile your clients. Get that to our underwriting team, and we'll make sure that you have the very best offer ready for your client. Let's go back to TJ real quick for some final words.
I'll keep it short and sweet, Kurt, but thank you, first of all, and just everybody have a great summer, and I appreciate you listening. And as always, Kurt, if individuals have questions, please feel free to send them my way. Happy to help any way I can.
Well, I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking time again to join us. Look forward to seeing you again here next time at Sales Accelerators.